How do we start this? Is the bigger question. I was thinking of a cold open, more on the lines of there are some films that change us essentially, and have the ability to tinker with every sort of bone in our system. Uh, so and so something along the lines of that I was thinking, and then how um, they have this ability to make you see things which you thought were sort of ordinary in a sort of extraordinary way, or like in a way which you never thought you could see these things and objects in real life. So yeah, of course, talking about Houseful 5.
जलाबुद्दीन उर्फ जॉली।
One thing I'm for sure, बढ़ी दारू की मुझे तोड़ चढ़ी।
मैं हूँ जलभूषण, तो तुम भी जॉली हो।
ये ही जॉली है।
और एक जॉली, लगता है बाहर जॉलियों का ट्रक पलट गया है। My name is Julius. I am the real Jolly. और ये दोनों नकली है। ये क्या? पापा रंजीत के असली बेटे होते ना तो ए नहीं करते, ऐसा करते।
And so I was thinking about
A or B. That is a more important question.
no, you decide which one did you like more, Chris? Houseful A or B?
I mean, for a film that's 5 minutes different in runtime between the two, I don't think I can like either better.
Do you think that was the intention behind the title? Like, the five. Like, actually, it was not the fifth. Like, it was a double. This is the like ingenuity of the marketing scam that they've. Sorry, not scam. Marketing genius that they've done with this. Is the whole thing where five is not just a number which is about the series. This being the fifth installment like in the series, but it's actually only 5 minutes are different in part A and part B. I mean,
That is the murder mystery, the spoilers.
the thought,
That they are the foreshadowing that they are doing.
the thought that goes into it. I mean, it's just like sublime. Like I salute the people
It's
who make
profound.
the profound. Yeah, I salute the people who've made the film, and I salute especially the people who watched it in any form, to then promote them to essentially make another version, which is not just one version, but now it'll be three: A, B, and C. And then it'll just like keep on multiplying until we get Houseful 10, and then we get like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Like it's just gonna be like a you can use
Put
the
that
Houseful series.
that song, the Hum Saath Saath Hai wala ABCD.
Yes.
A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z. I love you.
Or you can just use the Houseful series as a means to learn the alphabet. I mean, what is a bigger privilege for
it
any
will be then
universe person born
iPhone
in the
11,
universe?
sorry, Houseful 11 will have A, B, A.
Also, they'll also start teaching algebra from that, then I guess, in some weird universe. Anyways, talking about weirdness, let's talk about a weird little film. Again, Houseful 5B, sorry.
छोटी बच्ची है क्या?
This is just going to keep on happening, okay? Because Chris has supplied me with the material of having watched this atrocity. I haven't seen it, and I generally don't say all this, but Houseful, whatever. Garbage. Anyways, we are not talking about garbage, and I don't know how much of this I'll put. Anyways, what I was actually meaning to say was, and very seriously, was that there are some films which actually change us in a way where you start seeing stuff very differently. In the sense that everything, the certainty, I think I messaged this to someone, like, you're so certain about certain things in life, what is good, what is bad, what is, light, what is dark, what is fantasy, what is reality, and all these sort of, different sort of extreme opposite ends of the spectrum you kind of separate into like a neat pile, and then you get like films and filmmakers who come in and then sort of just have the ability to shake it up in a way where you then just where both of them where they sort of entangle reality and fantasy so much that you can't sort of differentiate them. And that's Housefull. Sorry.
सवाल उनसे की है ना, तो आप क्यों जवाब दे रहे हैं बीच में?
जवाब देने के लिए उन्होंने एक आदमी रखा है.
अगर इनको रखा है तो आप क्यों जवाब दे रहे हैं?
इनको मैंने रखा है.
No, that's no. So no, this is we're talking about David Lynch again. We are back to our David Lynch retrospective. Thank you, Cris and Arijit, for joining me again on this wonderful journey. The one wonderful journey of this year in some ways, actually. But yes, please introduce yourself after my shithousery. How much of it it'll go in, I don't know, but I try.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. But Arijit, we didn't warn you that we'll do all this Housefull 5 nonsense, so we are sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, it's good. It's good. I enjoy it.
Okay. So yes, Cris,
I'm the
what is the
Housefull 5
justification?
correspondent.
Yes, yeah. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's the thing, right? There is no justification is the fact of the matter because, like I said on Letterboxd, I have never felt the urge to apologize after watching a movie than
Yeah.
I have after watching Housefull 5. But actually, for the discussion we're having today, I'm putting it to consider that I'm going to count this as part of my Pride Month watching because to me, David Lynch is the sort of foundational or archaic definition of queer in the way that I'm working on as
Interesting.
strange, but also as playing with norms, right?
Yep.
Like the study that I'm doing is to redefine, perhaps in a way by going back, but also moving forward, as queer not as we think of intuitively, but queer as something that reconstructs, challenges, exaggerates, pushes to the boundaries what is normative, what is the norm. And I think David Lynch is one of those filmmakers who does it in such a foundational and fundamental way that, like you said, it shakes up how we look at the world, how we
Yeah.
fundamentally think of the those certainties, those things that are so obvious to us that we don't even see them. There are things that we know, and then there are things that we internalize so heavily that we don't even know that we are aware of them and that we know them. And the beauty of Lynch is he brings them to the surface and then challenges them in such a way that you are in some way changed after watching something that you
Yeah,
see.
and it's a bit of I know it's a very cliche thing, but it's like a magic trick in any sense. Like, it's the movie magic trick in many ways. It's and I think again, I don't know. They'll so this is the issue I think I've realized, and Arijit, we can sort of start off a little bit just talking about not specifics about Blue Velvet, because I think th- it's very tricky to discuss films like Blue Velvet, and later on even stuff like whichever stuff that sort of commits itself to losing track of logical sense and sort of committing to a sort of dreamy logic. I don't know how much it'll help us adhere to something which is very strict and regimented in terms of moving from one thing to another. But since we've just started on this note, like Cris sort of just started talking about the queer stuff, of course, and the queer lens through which you can watch uh, Lynch's films. And I know there are queer critics who are big. I think some of them are huge fans of Lynch, and some are. I think there's a particular complaint level against him, which we'll get to, and I don't think it's entirely unfair. I don't know if it's how much I put weight into it, but we'll talk about it, because again, this is not like some session where we are just gonna. If there are issues we have with some of the films, again, we said that we've not watched some of the films. Maybe first time we watch it, we don't love it. So we'll talk about all those things. But no, I was thinking that just after I stop babbling, Arijit can go and just talk briefly about whatever he feels about Blue Velvet in general, like just not even from a definite point of view. So I think I'm just saying that we can start there and then sort of see where the path takes us in whatever way. But yeah, I mean, you said, Cris, I think interestingly that this whole idea of noticing stuff very noticing stuff that's familiar very differently also, right, in many ways, and how that links to queerness. And I mean, this is I don't know. This is the third time I watched Blue Velvet, and the first two times, the last time I watched it was about 7 years ago, and I watched it this time, and I was just like, there's something like that. That's something. It has that something which is very hard to put into words. We will try, but it's I will no doubt I will be mentioning filmmakers I always mention, and films which I always mention, because this inevitably will happen, because there are certain topics and certain films and certain types of films that we gravitate to, like each of us in our own different ways. And Blue Velvet is a text which is open enough, I think, to branch out into directions where I was thinking about so many of the other films I love, I consistently cite. So I wanted to actually, yeah, apologize even before I start mentioning them later on, that you will be hearing these names and
One
films
of them is
again.
going to be Malik.
Malik, yes, and but no Claire Denis, though I have mentioned her here. But no, not after this. No, no, but Malik, yes, one film of his only. But and the other one is Agnes Varda, and then there's others also. Like again, but the point is, of course, Lynch's work is Lynch's work, and no one needs to tell anyone that. I think anyone, he has a recognizable sense. Like you see a Lynch, it's the Wes Anderson thing almost. I know it's like different artists, but like a Lynch film
Yeah.
from watching a
The
Lynch
auteur
film.
imprint. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's just like there's the way people talk, the duration of the shots, I mean, I would say the masterful balancing of tones, which I think is just like, I was mind boggled by how he does that in Blue Velvet. But yeah, just there's such, and even if you're going for like even more sort of superficial levels, then just the actors and players who are there in recurring sort of throughout his filmography. That's also there. Then music. This is essentially the start of the quote unquote Lynch that I think everyone knows and recognizes the most. I think Eraserhead is still considered the sort of avant-garde version of this, like the one which is, I mean, it's also black and white, and I think we'll talk about the color in this film because it's so like, such a big plays such a big role. But yeah, I mean, again, this can be very endless babbling. So please make me shut up whenever you feel like. There's no obligation to listen to me. Arijit, please go ahead. Sorry, I babbled too much.
No, you were good. It was
Yeah,
good.
but
It was good. No,
yeah.
but I'll pick up from where you guys, I mean, where you guys left off. One is, of course, uh, the subconscious. I think. I mean, I have said this, I think, before,
Hmm.
and also the fact that it's very difficult to articulate in words what Lynch does with films. And I think that's. I mean, even Lynch is like known famously for saying all these things that if you, I mean, the film is the talking. You really don't want to talk about the
Yeah.
film, so that becomes it becomes more complex to talk about films like these.
Hmm.
But what any of Lynch's films, what it does essentially to me is it just, I think I've said this before, but it just takes me down to places where I wouldn't usually go, where
Yeah.
memories and all that stuff, which
Hmm.
I consciously I have shut them off.
Yep.
I've just abandoned them, but they'll just surface. And what Chris mentioned, I think the way it challenges it. So
Hmm.
the films they, and I'll mention a very like real incident that happened
Hmm.
very recently, but I'll come back to that. But anyway, so yeah, so
Hmm.
that happens that I have to confront those, and those stuff they surface, and I have to confront them, and there's also sense of resolution in a way.
Hmm.
It's not the usual catharsis thing, but
Yeah.
there's a way out of this,
Hmm.
and I think I don't know how to describe it, but I think I would call it spiritual in a way, the
Yeah.
experience of being through a David Lynch film.
Yeah.
So, and I think I had watched Blue Velvet 3, 4 years ago and
Hmm.
really liked it, but
Hmm.
this time I was just totally blown away. I was like, fuck,
Hmm.
how did he make this film?
Yeah.
And like we were discussing, like I mean, it's not possible to make this film today. I mean,
I
but
mean, because of many reasons, but yes,
many
we'll
reasons,
get to them
yeah,
also. But
yeah.
I I just I can't think of any filmmaker who can juggle this
Yeah, yeah.
tonality. I just like I was astonished at just how well it was swinging between two absolutely different types of film and doing both films tremendous justice. Like, it's I think the and this we'll I'll keep on getting back to this point a little bit because this is a sort of pet peeve I have against some modern filmmakers also. And the other film I thought about and what sort of my critique of it is The Substance, which borrows a fair bit from a Lynch, Cronenberg, etc., etc. But it's that sense in a film like that of, it states what it's about and then it sort of regurgitates that throughout its runtime. Here, it states what it's about, but firstly, I think this whatever it states it's about is far more interesting than what the substance actually is about, in my opinion. And then secondly, this film, unlike sort of a film like The Substance, and I'm not, there are other films and filmmakers who do this. This is the first film that struck to my mind, so I'm just calling that out. Uh, there's this tendency almost to hammer home the point as opposed to make you uh, invested or like just make you so convinced that you are in this world which is mysterious, which I think is the big, I mean, that's a central dialogue that takes place in this film. Is about being part of a mystery and being within a mystery and being somewhere in between of a mystery or something like that. And it I was just like, that's it, I just like personally I want a film to be mysterious in some way or the other. And I don't mean they need to be murder mysteries or like, have some missing item or whatever, but they need to have like that. They need okay, fine. They don't need to have it, but like, it's for me. There's a draw. There's that. What Arijit was saying a little bit about the fact that Lynch has said that you can't describe that. It should be the fact that when you watch it, when you come out of watching something, you are stumbling to form words. You're stumbling to explain what happened to you. Not, I would say, when, for example, I came out of The Substance and I was like, well, the first 20 minutes told me everything. So I can just like, tell you what that tells you. And then the rest of the film is good on its own. But, where is the ability to, conjure up like magic, like genuine, and I think I had to review this other film also last year. It's not released. It premiered at Cannes or something, I think. And I remember comparing that to Silence, the Martin Scorsese film, and how there's a fundamental difference is that some filmmakers or like filmmakers who are very sort of confident about what they want to say express what they want to say a little too clearly, little too early for me. Like, it's one of those things. And I'm sorry, I've gotten into this habit of saying "for me" because of you know what, and I don't like doing that. Everything is for me only. Like, everything, whatever I'm saying is IMO, just in caps. But no, I think my point with this is essentially that that film also, like something like The Substance, sort of overplays its hand in communicating what it's about and doesn't sort of allow you to journey with its characters through the film's world. So what you do is essentially watch the drama from a distance and you don't actually get immersed in it, is the big sort of point. And I think Lynch's cinema, more or less at least, has never done that. Like, his cinema is capital I immersive. Like, it's like I think whatever he wants to say is fairly clear in a lot of his movies. It's more complicated though, I think, than I give it credit for Blue Velvet at least. But
No, but I
yeah.
think also what you're saying, Dhruv, no, it's the difference between a truism and the actual exploration of an idea.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
the problem with the film, like The Substance, for example, is it's stating a sort of truism and then spending the film justifying a sort of claim that has already been made.
Yeah.
But for me, what works so wonderfully with Lynch's work is it's a true exploration of an idea
Yeah.
through both the experience of watching the film, of the narrative unfolding, of all of those things. Like, yes, what he's trying to say is clear, but it's not something that is clear at the very beginning, and then you spend the rest of the film, like you said, sort of experiencing that truth. It is of starting with a sort of the beginnings of an idea and actually exploring it, of unfolding that idea and coming to a conclusion. Could be
Yeah.
his conclusion, could be your conclusion.
And yeah, I think that's
And-
the whole ambiguity is there. Like there's but mystery is there. That's the whole thing. I think mystery
Absolutely.
is there.
And
Yeah.
that mystery has more substance than just what the film says, okay, this is what the mystery is about. Like there is a reason why Lynch's films have been analyzed from basically every framework in every field of study known to mankind, from philosophy to film studies to everything in between. That is because that ambiguity is an ambiguity of curiosity and fundamentally of exploration and of mystery, in the sense that there is a conclusion out there, but that is for you to find, and the definitiveness of that is based on how definite you feel about that conclusion. It's not preordained or a truism that you must come to indefinitely.
Everything's unstable on
you
shaky ground. Yeah.
you were mentioning magic, and I'm
Don't tell me
kind
you
of
thought about Hrithik Roshan and Koi Mil Gaya.
It's magic, it's magic. I got the vibe that you need. It's magic, it's magic. I got the vibe that you need.
uh, but, oh, fuck. Anyway, so but that that took me by surprise. Give me a
Nicely
minute.
done, Dhruv.
Yeah, that was very good.
Because Arijit was building up to it. So I was thinking he might be, because we started on such a useless note of like Housefull 5, that I was like, it might just go in that direction. So, or
But anyway,
E.T., whatever, Hindi
No,
E.T.
insert Jadoo, that
Of
paragraph.
course. Of course.
so
Yes,
anyway,
magic.
so yeah, so I've been like I mean, I've always been very fascinated by magic. I mean, magicians,
Yeah.
street magicians, and all that stuff.
Mm.
And there's also PC Sarkar. I've seen his shows and all that. And the basic question that everyone asks is, how does he do it? So, but what I've come to realize, I mean, it's obvious thing, but I've realized it very late, is like deep down, magic is about, it's about a way of control. I mean, so movies in some way or the other, they try to do that. I mean, I'm not strictly speaking manipulation, but
No,
there's
it is, I
it
think.
wants you to take you
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
But what Lynch does here is, I mean, he'll take you. So, for example, if you take the Blue Velvet's, that shot that comfortably sitting in the drawing room and you're watching your television, but in your garden you're deep down going through that grass and there are bugs.
Yes.
And so what Lynch will do is he'll take you down that path and then
Yeah.
he'll set you free. Go
Yes.
and find your way.
Yeah.
And then you pick up all the things along the way, and then you come back, and of course the mystery remains, but that's only for you to preserve. I mean, it's your special thing, and that's how I think there's a personal connection you make with each of his films. And
Yeah. As you
fundamentally,
said, because you said that one of the first things that you think whenever you watch a Lynch film is that you experience a sort of memory
Right.
that maybe you have never thought
Right.
about, and then that
Right,
sort of
right,
comes up because of a Lynch film, right? So
right. And
after
I
watching
think
a Lynch film, sorry.
principally any art that will stick or
Hmm.
that becomes special to you is because of this connection that you make.
Yeah.
So with Lynch, I mean, I'm very amazed by you were mentioning tone, which is also a factor. Like he'll bring so many elements together, and he'll kind of juggle within them,
Yeah.
and then but he'll still keep that balance, and he will give you a wholesome experience. Like
Yeah.
it's a coherent experience.
Yeah.
So it's really, really
I
crazy to think
I
that.
would say that Blue Velvet is probably the most coherent like it's a juxtaposition, but that's the whole film. It's probably the most coherent surreal experience
Yeah,
you will
yeah, yeah.
get in a Lynch film. Like it's the one which I think is least dependent on unlocking the plot, if that makes sense. The plot becomes a little more central in unlocking some of the emotions for his later films. But this one, I think, relies the least on plot and most on sort of tone, atmosphere, attitude, convention, and as Chris was
Right,
saying,
right,
norm, and breaking
right,
that or
right.
not breaking that, all that stuff. So yeah, but I mean, if you watch a Lynch film, you will experience, like, it's a cliche, but it is so true. Like, you will experience it, and then you can come out of it and make whatever you want of it. You can hate it. Some people really hated the film. We'll mention Roger Ebert. I read his critique of it. Part of it, which I think is very, very bad, and very, very, like, badly articulated even, and part of it which is totally understandable. So anyways, like, I'm gonna do, I know I didn't do like a intro. I'll just lay out the details of this film for everyone who's sat through us babbling about how much we love Blue Velvet, essentially, from the get-go, because I think, again, this film could, I could do like a scene by like, I won't do it, but I can do a scene by scene breakdown of this. Like, I would like to do it actually someday, when I have motivation in life, but not now. But anyways, Blue Velvet. It's directed by David Lynch. Surprise. Right, written by David Lynch. Also a surprise. Only written by him. And I think after this point, most of his work is just written by him, and mostly all of it's just original work. It's not an adaptation or anything. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. Like, this is coming directly from the mind of a person, and it's so rare nowadays also to see films which are made, which are not adaptations. That's the other thing I keep on thinking about. Like, it's such a rarefied position he like occupies in, like, contemporary cinema just makes him look even more and more and more like, some, like, he was a genius, but, like, he feels more and more important in some ways. But anyways, it's written by him, directed by him, shot by Frederick Elms, who shot his previous films, I think. A previous film, definitely. I'm not sure if he shot Eraserhead. Editor is Duane Dunham, who worked with, I think, Francis Ford. No, he worked with George Lucas, not Francis Ford Coppola. Sorry, Mr. Coppola, for comparing you to Mr. Lucas. I would not dare do that. I'm No offense is meant to anyone. Composer is Angelo Badalamenti, and the first collaboration of many great collaborations between the two. And product. I want to mention this because I'm going to mention something about the costumes, which I noticed this time, which I didn't notice the last time. Production and costume designer is Patty Norris. So yeah, like, these are the sort of technical the main sort of people who made the film. One name I will mention, just because he was kind of responsible for this film being distributed and produced, is Dino De Laurentiis. He doesn't have his name appear in the producer credits. He's essentially, his company is there. His company is credited, and they essentially went through, because Blue Velvet had bad test screenings. Surprise, people didn't understand the film, which was ahead of its time, and started to lambaste it. Happens all the time. Anyways, they were like, "This is garbage. This is, like, whatever, whatever." And he was like, "No, we will 100. Like, it doesn't matter what people say. This is." And I think he worked with him. I think David Lynch did Dune a lot because of Dino De Laurentiis, and this was Blue Velvet is essentially Laurentiis going that, okay, that film failed, now make your thing. Make your thing. You will get the final cut, but the final cut would need the budget to be halved, and your salary to also be probably halved. So it's this whole thing where I think that was the big thing, because we I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. We have skipped Dune on our discussion of Lynch films, not because we all hate it, brackets, we do, most of us who've seen it, but we have discussed it already in the Dune series episodes. If you want to listen to us talk about it, um, it's not good. Sorry. Uh, but uh, but no, he had a torrid time at, I mean, making Dune. And I think I think I have a quote where he was basically like, he craved that freedom so much, in the sense that, I think he said something along the lines that, that Dune is essentially him dying two times. Essentially, he sold out and then also made a film which no one liked. Neither, not even he himself. And then I think he says that Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is at least only one death in the sense that no one liked it, but at least I was proud that I made it. Sort of on that level. Blue Velvet is sort of his film. Like there is no frame of it which is like not obsessed over by him or touched by him. Like everything is his in some ways, like his vision and everything, and he has final cut, etc., and you can tell by watching the film. But yes, so that's the sort of basis of it. And then the cast members, because they'll also be a big thing in this. Kyle MacLachlan, his second big thing, I think he was the big poor entry into the show business by starring in as Paul Atreides and Dune. But after that, his collaborations with David Lynch have been tremendous. I think. I mean, he's amazing in Twin Peaks also. I think. But Kyle MacLachlan as Jeffrey Beaumont, Isabella Rossellini, who I just found out was married to Martin Scorsese and is the daughter of Roberto Rossellini and Ingrid. I always about to say Ingmar Bergman, which I shouldn't. Ingrid Bergman. So yeah, it's anyways, Swedish joke for our people who don't heard of. Leave it. Dennis, De, 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 Dennis Hopper, of course. Hopper,
Hopper.
Hopper.
Hopper, I
Uh,
think.
Hopper.
Yeah.
The crazed Dennis Hopper as Frank Booth, and Laura Dern as Sandy Williams. And then there's a lot of regular people who sort of show up in Twin Peaks later on who are in this. Jack Nance from Eraserhead is in this. And then there's this amazing little dancer lady on the top of a car, who, yeah, I mean, that's, anyways, well, fascinating stuff. Anyways, the plot of the film, very simple. There's not much to, like, explanation to it. IMDb say maybe I took. I'm
Just
not
quote a
sure.
noir film.
Yes, every, like, so many films in some sense. Neo noir. You could say like could you say like almost it has that dark comedy, uh what do you call it, almost melodramatic. It is melodramatic in many ways, in some ways, but like whatever you.
It is. I mean, I think we could like make a new subgenre,
Yeah,
Lynchian
yeah,
noir.
yeah, Lynchian noir, yeah, absolutely, and noir is a central thing for him,
Yeah, yeah.
because in later films also, like he takes and twists around the archetypes a fair bit, in mostly all of his neo noir stuff. But anyways, the plot for whoever's unfamiliar. Firstly, please do not listen to us spoil this film. Uh, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. Find the best print possible. Like if people make an argument of going to watch films in the cinema on the best quality possible. This is why people make that argument. Like this is the living and breathing example of why films should be watched in the best possible condition, because you do see the effort and everything put into them. Anyways, point is, watch it, please, if you've not seen it. But I think it's one of his most known works, at least. So yes, the plot is the discovery of a severed human ear found in a field leads a young man on an investigation related to a beautiful, mysterious nightclub singer and a group of psychopathic criminals who have kidnapped her child. That's very, like, apt. And I think, but I think that's the simplicity of the plot is actually, now that I think about it, an anomaly in compared to what comes later for him, because later the films become much more unwieldy with the narrative, but this one is very focused in that sense. But yes, that is all the setup I have to do. I will keep on dropping bits of some trivia and some things that maybe help make our arguments from the chapter in the book Room to Dream. The book's title is Room to Dream. Chapter's title is A Suburban Romance, Only Different. Uh, I'm going to show off the fact that I have read 78 pages
I was just going to say, I'm
for this
astonished
episode.
that you can read.
I know. I was thinking of audiobooking. I honestly should have audiobooked the David Lynch part. I was just imagining him saying it and I was just laughing with that. So, anyways, who should start? Chris, you can start with, and we'll be talking all spoilers and everything. And, maybe we all have different takes on the film also, like in terms of what we think of how it sort of coheres and how it sort of what it's trying to say. Because it's one of those things where you come to describe a film and you realize after watching it after so many years how simplified you have made it in your head. When you watch it and you're like, oh, yeah, I am such an idiot for like thinking of it just as this thing, when it's so many things. So yeah, maybe we'll end up there. I don't know. So this is essentially, I've done what's the vegetables part is over now. You can get to like the main course uh, stuff.
Sure, sir. No, I mean this was again one of the two Lynch films that I watched just after his death with my friends at my university.
Your
And
lovely friends,
my
as we
lovely
always, yeah.
acknowledge. No, but I
I
think
know why
it
they
was
like this movie.
no, but after watching Eraserhead, there was just like a sense of like, what have we just watched that sort of that I spoke about the
Hmm.
last time. But I think Blue Velvet, the reactions were similar, but also quite more interesting because of the fact that it's in a sense so much more accessible, right? In at least in a narrative. I mean, especially if you compare to something like Eraserhead,
Yeah.
is at least from the brass tacks of its narrative. Yes, there is a lot of classic Lynch like going off the rails type of stuff, but there is still a far more coherent
Yeah,
storytelling to
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
So
there's a plot, like a very hard-lined plot. Noir is
very
plot essential.
linear. Yeah.
Noir is over plotting. This is plotting, not over. I don't think there's anything over plotted in this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So that had that reaction of, again, like I said, it was that sort of subversion of expectations because you started with obviously that you start with the visuals as Arijit was saying of going into this garden, and that sort of thing is still there, but at least as the film begins and especially till you get to Isabella Rossellini's characters, there's a very like it sets up that norm, that sense of what is the routine before it goes and throws it out
But
of the
does it?
window. To me, I think it definitely does. I
But
think there is.
I feel even in that setup, there's so much like destability. There's no like, like it's not that every, or maybe it's the second time I'm watching it. Maybe that's why, sorry, third time watching it that I'm feeling like that. But when the opening happens, the
Yeah.
opening itself is so destabilized in the way it
Yeah.
happens. Like there's this idyll, and then the idyll is very casually eroded by simple cuts to like a hose pipe, and that it's the tension. Like there's this slow motion beginning of this idyllic, picket, rose colored, blue tinted sort of that sort of scenic
Yeah.
America, and then
Yeah.
it sort of just and then it sort of then I think what you're saying, like it builds the rhythm, but then very quickly it just sort of undercuts it, and then we get back to the rhythm, and then it undercuts it, and then so for me that's there even from the beginning. I don't think there's
No,
like
I get that, but I think it is the first watch sort of difference in the
sure.
sense that you get used to David Lynch's normativity or that
Sure.
normative
Hmm.
and that film's norms. Like
Hmm.
you are not expecting, like obviously we had all seen Eraserhead before, so we weren't expecting a norm. So we went in obviously with those expectations. And so it sets you up, okay, something is going on here, but then
Hmm.
there is still it's unconventional from what we were expecting in how it even sets up the norm.
Sure. Sure.
And then, the moment, especially once you get into Isabella, once she's introduced, it very rapidly sort of
Yeah.
gets thrown out of the window.
Yeah.
And then you have particularly that entire sequence that happens inside her house with Kyle MacLachlan
which is very
and
I think the only scene which I don't think like I would want to rewatch this movie a lot, but I think I might fast forward that scene just because I do find it very violent in a way which uh discomforts me, and I think I've gotten the point of it, so I'm just like I can look away because
I think that's very interesting because for me it's the other way around in the
okay.
sense that it's one of the few times where that is done in a way that I find I don't find to be explicitly exploitative that I really, and we've had this discussion many times, that I find that sexual violence extremely
No,
difficult to watch in
it's
films.
effectively, like, it's done very tastefully. I don't think it's exploitative. It's disturbing because it's done in a way which is
Absolutely.
uh, maneuvered very expertly, as opposed to, I would say, Gaspar Noé's Irreversible, where the shot just hold. I mean, there's also censorship things which
Yeah.
prevented him fraud, and I don't think Lynch is someone who's averse to being fairly brutal when
Yeah.
it comes to it. But this, yeah, it's effective because it's done in a way where more is implied, as opposed to everything is very gratuitously shown. Though
Absolutely. And
Frank
yeah,
Hooper's performance,
Hopper.
Hopper,
No,
Frank's performance.
Dennis Hopper
Oh
and
my God,
Frank. So, thoda.
Frank Booth in the film is
Yes.
insanely scary to me. So I think
Hmm.
it's that thing. It's the
Yeah.
mania, it's the hysteria which gets to me. So it's more on that sense more than anything else. But
No, for me, but yeah, what I'm saying is it's obviously you are still watching sexual exploitation on screen, but for me, it's captivating in that sense that it's able to make it so uncomfortable without ever feeling exploitative. And that to me is quite admirable because I'm like I've said, I'm very, very sensitive about the
I mean, your
depiction of sexual
brutalist
violence on
was the last straw in many
Brutalist
aspects.
and your recommendation, that incredible Quaron thing from last year. A disclaimer. Even that I was so disturbed.
You didn't need
Uh,
to remind me of that. I was doing
you're
fine.
welcome. Anyways, so I think that was one of the first things that sort of I was going through, and this time, and since you guys brought up the idea of magic, the idea that I kept thinking of, and this is a concept in sociology, is this idea of disenchantment.
Okay.
That is what I kept thinking of. And disenchantment, classically in sociology, is I think it's best summarized in the sort of Nietzsche quote that everybody might have heard: is God is dead and we have killed him. In the sense that for me, the film is a sort of fight almost against or with or between these forces of disenchantment, that this idyllic American world, and which is obviously represented by Laura Dern's character, as you pointed out, and we
Yeah.
were having a discussion earlier about it, but that is threatened in a way through Kyle MacLachlan's character, where he is constantly having to battle the fact that he's getting disenchanted from this idyllic world that he thought he belonged to.
Yeah.
And I think to me that is what the film does so wonderfully. And you were talking about the tonal this thing. I think it only works because the tonalities are so perfectly mirrored in how exaggerated they are. So if
Yeah.
you have to have this sort of manic, violent darkness, you need an almost childlike, naive idea of a good, of a better, of another
Childlike,
side.
naive idea, but see, I think, and Arijit, please go after this. I know we've gone on a little bit about this, but it's that thing, right? Because there's this one moment which I think is very indicative of what response you give to this moment, and in some ways, how you see the film. It's arguably the film's quote unquote cheesiest moment, but also oddly effective, and that's what got to me this time. I think it's this scene between Sandy and Jeffrey in the car outside the church, where she's basically where Kyle MacLachlan essentially asks her that why do people like Frank exist in this world, which is essentially also a question of why do I exist, because I think there's so much of a mirror image happening between those two characters, in some ways, like Frank and Jeffrey,
Jeffrey.
that he asks her, like, very earnestly, like he believes what he says, that why do people like Frank exist in this world, which he thinks is like the epitome or the representation of evil. And she says she doesn't have the answer, which, like, reasonable response. And then she goes on this very short monologue.
I had a dream. In the dream, there was our world, and the world was dark because there weren't any robins, and the robins represented love. And for the longest time, there was just this darkness. And all of a sudden, thousands of robins were set free, and they flew down and brought this blinding light of love. And it seemed like that love would be the only thing that would make any difference. And it did. So I guess it means there is trouble till the robins come.
It's this whole thing about robins, and until the robins come home, all of them, that when they come home, everything will be fixed. And I'm like, one part of my head, this is like mocking, right? This is clearly mocking this mentality. But I think the key here is that I don't think Lynch considers it in a mocking tone. And Laura Dern's performance absolutely doesn't consider it as a mocking tone. Like, it's one of those things where it's like she believes what she's saying is true, even though we as viewers might, in our higher positions, think that, this is bogus. Like, what she's saying is absolute nuts. Like, this is not reality. This is your own creation of it. And it is, absolutely it is. But because Lynch and Laura Dern, in that instance particularly, believe their reality so much, and are confident in expressing it in a way where your mocking sort of superiority of this point of view is brought down. Like, to me, because I was affected by it. I was thinking, you know what? My first response was, of course, like, you laugh at it, because it's like, stop it, stop it already. Do you know what's going on? Like, it's one of those things. And then you're like, she believes it. And and you want people to have that almost innocence. It's not naivety. Then it's like the innocence and naivety ka difference. She is naive, but her performance of it is innocent, as opposed to like, dumb sort of, doing all. And that's very crucial, I think. And that's what complicates the film like multifold for me. Like, otherwise this is simply what I kept on describing it as, which is, and it's a very good film at that, but it's not Blue Velvet, because Blue Velvet is something more than what I described it as, which is the whole, looking beneath the facade of which it is about, but it has a naive optimism, which I like to mock, because I don't believe in it. I've shed that off myself, but it has the courage and the conviction to embody that perspective through some of its characters. And in some odd way, you want, or at least I wanted her to get her dream. What she gets is a dream. The thing about the film, though, is that everything in this film is so fractured and fragmented that the happiest moment feels often like it's a construction, and the evilest moment has this odd moment of sympathy. So it just like like this time it was like it blew my circuits out of like any order. I was just like, what is this movie? Like, it's so you think disenchantment, it is enchanting.
No,
And
that's the thing,
consistently
right?
doing that, right? So,
Disenchantment, both in the Nietzschean sense and the sociological sense, the theorists that speak about it, is a negative idea. It's a
yeah,
lamentation. It's
yeah,
saying that we have become disenchanted. We shouldn't. We have lost a certain magical thinking, a certain ability to find joy
Yeah.
in having lost these ideas, these notions of the divine, or in whatever sense that we think of them, that modernity has in a sense robbed us of our innocence, has robbed us of our ability to be hopeful and of all of these things. And I think that is what I see throughout, that desire to not be disenchanted, to re-enchant ourselves
Okay.
in what the film's hopefulness
I'll
is. And so that's
I'll
where
I'll
yeah.
I'll circle back to this after I let Arijit speak. But yes, Arijit, go ahead, please.
No, it's an interesting discussion. I didn't want to
No,
interrupt.
no, no. But I
No,
just wanted to not
it's
be, like because again, I
no,
told
I
you, like, it's one of
love
those things where I
because
can go off on this.
yeah, because what happens with me is, like, first though I am like very bamboozled by Lynch's films. Like, it's so difficult to put into words
Yeah.
what it does. And then when you guys are actually articulating pretty well and bringing many of the emotions and feelings that I usually go through, and especially
Mhm.
I did go through while watching Blue Velvet.
Mhm.
But I just made some notes and stuff. So
Mhm.
I'll start from the basic year thing that I was talking about. So
Mhm.
one thing that I find is it's sort of when we look at that year, the shot of that year,
Mhm.
there's a the shot lingers with a sort of perverse fascination,
Yep.
and then we are like slowly zooming into it. It's just, I mean, it's not just a grotesque imagery, it's our gateway into the sort of psychological
Yeah,
underworld, if I
absolutely. I mean,
might
I
say.
think Eraserhead has many of these shots in the opening,
Right,
if I'm not wrong. Like,
right,
you going
right.
through canals and, like, industrial
Exactly.
pipes and all that, and like going into
So
all these places essentially as
the
portals.
year
Yeah.
as an orifice is, I feel it's sort of gendered,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this film where Dorothy's body is like a site, an instrument of
Mm-hmm.
violence.
Yep.
I mean, she is assaulted, she is dominated, and she's ultimately find her to be a very ambiguous figure in the sense that she is
I
also a
think,
victim.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think, if there is a flaw
Hmm.
for me, I
Hmm.
think that character is, out of all the characters in the film, the weakest for me.
Hmm.
I don't find, I like Isabella Rossellini's performance, but I
Hmm.
find the character a tad bit, well, either underwritten or also underexplored in some ways. Like, or maybe it was just this watch where I was so honed in on
No,
Frank
I think
and
yeah, you are right in that sense. I mean, it's almost like she is the fulcrum of it, and it's the whole
she's
idea
the
revolves
object, and then
object.
everything
Yeah,
everything is sort of
absolutely,
happening
absolutely.
around, and her sort of I don't want, like, the whole agency angle in many ways is the comes through her sort of sexual perversion in some ways in this, right? Because it's this whole
Mhm.
idea that, because it's never made clear to us, we have that there is that whole thing that she's a victim, but is she also, like, is
And
that the
she's also a
reason
complicit performer. I sort of felt that, but I'm not sure
Sure.
whether
No, no, I
to. I'm
think
still
Lynch
processing it.
intends it that way, considering
Right.
how all the other characters are written. I think there is no character here that is either light or dark. Both
Hmm.
shades need to be there.
Right.
They can be dominated by one force. Like Frank Booth is dominated by evil, but he has moments of tenderness in
Yes.
him.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
And
Ditto with sort of,
especially
yeah.
with the music, if you remember when she's singing Blue Velvet. I
Yep.
forgetting the lyrics. It was like Blue Velvet through the tears or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Booth is actually teary-eyed and he's holding that blue velvet
Yeah, yeah,
cloth in
I
his
mean, he's a
hand.
broken, one of
He's
those very
actually, yeah,
quintessential
yeah,
broken noir characters
and
almost.
his uh, I mean, he inflicts violence, but it's also through. I mean, you see, there are shades of oral fixation. I mean, he's
Yeah, yeah,
inhaling
yeah.
that with the mask, and there are screams, and there are threats directed at, mouth, ears, genitals. They're all. I
Mhm.
find them interlinked in a very. I mean, I don't know how to express it, but it's just sort of feeling you get in it. I have to speak in a very Lynchian way. It's the kind of feeling you get, like that. And
Yeah.
and yeah, so I film I feel that they start the film with this feminine coded orifice, that's
Yeah.
brutalized and discarded in a
Hmm.
very apparently very manicured world with a white picket American fence
Yeah.
and
I mean, the Reagan era
the
thing is there, of
suburban,
course. So, yeah.
yeah, the suburban dream. And it also leads Jeffrey, who's like I think Chris was mentioning the innocence of it,
Yeah.
who's getting into this weird world of sexual trauma, gendered violence, and
Yeah.
and the descent through that year into the psyche is also sort of suggesting how violence is inscribed on the female body. Why
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
knowing.
I think so. I
So
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I think it's so. What Chris was saying about sort of the innocence, like not wanting to lose that sense of innocence. I was thinking about this in the film. To me, it's almost like innocence and evil are not separable in any sense. In the sense that if you live, for example, in a utopia, quotation marks, American suburban utopia, what that what happens with that dream of American suburban utopia is it automatically instills in you this desire of wanting mystery, of wanting to seek something which is corrupt, wanting to seek something which is uh, so it's almost it's that whole thing where everything that's uh, nothing that appears pure is pure. Everything is tainted in a way. Everyone is tainted. No one is pure because Sandy is not pure because there's the whole infidelity angle going on essentially with her and like dumping Mike. And she's going about it very swiftly, like her boyfriend when she's going to date Kyle MacLachlan's character, essentially, Jeffrey. But anyways, like to me, it's this whole idea that everyone is somewhat like the facade is always it's always a facade in many ways. Uh, but so it's that strange thing where or maybe it's about sort of human desire in some ways, but it's like that
Absolutely, absolutely. The
when
human desire
yeah.
point is bang on. That's like, sorry, I just
No, please go ahead, please go
yeah.
ahead,
So
yeah.
I find that it's like Jeffrey's journey is sort of like he's trying to navigate a society. I mean, also,
Hmm.
uh, we have to once Tarantino said in a podcast that the
Hmm.
50s and the 80s they're like the appropriation eras of
Hmm.
which is why the films we have and all that. And he also
Hmm.
mentioned from 2010 to 19, I think he said that's also one of those decades. But anyway,
Hmm.
so Lynch grew up in a 50s America, the post-war
Yeah.
America, which is about
Hmm.
pacifism,
Hmm.
and also 80s was sort of, so this Jeffrey is sort of this character who's trying to navigate a society of sort of a cultural oppression that apparently
Yeah.
looks
Hmm.
very clean,
Yeah.
very comforting,
Yeah.
and there is a sadistic response to that.
Yeah.
And Booth is, on the other hand, I'm slightly going to the Freudian angle, but Booth is
Go ahead, please.
slightly
Just
in
mention
embodies
it's that so that people who want to mute you now will mute you for 2 minutes and then unmute
embodies
you.
sort of a darker world of subconscious because
Sure, sure.
and
Yeah.
and the curiosity part that you were mentioning, it's like I find it's those morbid curiosities that take us on. And I think I might mention that thing right now is like a couple of weeks ago we
Hmm.
all know what happened, the whole crisis of
Hmm.
the geopolitical crisis we've
Oh,
had.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you
That.
know how people
Yeah.
of one faith will be inflicting damage on the other
Yeah.
faith. I'm just not explicitly mentioning. So there, a
Hmm.
video surfaced on social media that was
Hmm.
some shops were vandalized and brutalized in
Hmm.
a locality of here, and it was almost like a mob lynching. And they was like
Sure.
they recorded it,
Hmm.
and usually I avoid those kind of videos, but
Hmm.
I was. And they just pulled this guy from the shop and they're just dragging him to the street, beating, kicking, and all sorts of the most atrocious violence that
Hmm.
and in a weird way I had that kind of curiosity that I wanted to watch that,
Yeah.
and not just watch it.
Hmm.
I was strangely going back. I was rewinding the video and I was just watching it again and again,
Sure.
once to feel the perpetrators, that how they were reacting to it, and
Yeah.
also again to feel the pain of the guy who was
Sure.
being subjected to that kind of violence. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
while I was doing that, this image, the scene that Dhruv, you were saying that you find it very, violent,
Yeah.
that was reckoning in my mind.
Sure.
So they were
Hmm.
somehow connecting subconsciously.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, I mean, if we take Blue Velvet in today's context, we are subjected to so much violence in
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
or everyday lives.
Yeah.
So that is, but we still drawn to that kind of thing. Even we are sitting in our homes, we are comforted, we
It's
are
the
enjoying
weird, it's that
TV.
paradox, right? I think it's
Right.
this whole thing where we want that picket
Hmm.
fenced utopia, but once we get it, we can't sort of suppress the urge and like the impulse almost in many ways
Right.
to
And
explore what is not part of that utopia, what is a sort of hidden and like again that's the very
yeah,
quintessential Lynchian thing of sort of looking underneath what is on the surface, which this is essentially going inside the bushes,
right,
inside
No,
right,
but
yeah.
because
it's also a sense of voyeurism, right? The
It is,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
ability
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
be within that safe space and to observe. And I'm sorry to cut you off right there, Arjit, but you bring up the 80s, and I find it very fascinating because you're also talking. This is right in the middle of the AIDS epidemic, and like I wanted
Yes,
to say
yes,
that
yes.
because you know the Reagan era for queerness, and sort of think talking largely sociopolitically is a fascinating era because I've been studying this recently. Is there is this increased persecution of queer people because the AIDS
Mhm.
epidemic, but it comes with an sort of rabid curiosity. Like everybody wants to talk about how horrible the gays are. It's not about rejection. It's not about
Yep.
forgetting. It's not like we're not going to, like before that in the pre-Stonewall, I'd see even up to like the 50s and such, it was like, this is something we don't talk about. This is something we don't acknowledge.
Yep.
Now it is, we are acknowledging them for the morbid curiosity of their suffering bodies and to condemn them. And
Sure.
that is what the Reagan era is characterized by. And for
Yep.
me, I think that is deeply emblematic in something like
Yep.
Blue
That
Velvet, that it is.
fundamental sort of, like it just like it's the absolute clash of opposites in a way where it shouldn't fit at all. Like it shouldn't work in a film in terms of tone. Like I mean, it's just that you're saying that you to manage it's like we can say it of course here now because the film works so well, but to manage a form which is like almost harkening to soapish melodrama, like
Yeah.
it
Right.
like the tonality of the stuff with the parents, like the I love there are some moments which are very like satirical and parodic, which I absolutely love. Like in the beginning there's this after that the moment happens in the opening with the blue velvet, she wore blue, and then the father collapses. Then
Yeah.
very soon there's like this hard cut, and it's like lumber, whatever the place's name is. It's like a very cheery FM rendition of the place's name in all its glory, and I just started laughing out loud because it's like it's got these incongruities which are which it's that strange thing, like it's like you. And again, it's interesting that we are saying strange because it's mentioned about 3 to 4 times in this film that it's a strange world. Like I think that's he very clearly sort of foregrounds that it is like the what you are seeing here, like because I think everyone feels in the film while watching the film that nothing is like right, like everything
Mm.
is like there's something off in a very like expertly sort of, it's not
It
like
will feel right, but there's
yeah,
something off. Yeah,
something
that's
off.
the
Yeah.
thing.
I think
Yeah,
it's the you see the opening scene, right, which is the whole glorious opening,
yeah.
and then
The
then it's
garden, the
it's
roses,
literally
and
like
yeah.
3 cuts later. It's like one cut to the hose pipe, then back, then back, then back, and then it's turned entirely into like this absolutely sort of tragedy, like a proper tragedy for the father there, who gets miraculously cured later on, which is very interesting. But there's also, I think, this thing sort of becomes a bigger thing in Twin Peaks and sort of later on. I
Yeah.
love the shot in the opening sort of section of he's following the people within the house and everything, and then the camera just pans a little bit and shows a detective walking or whoever walking with a gun in their hand up the stairs somewhere on a TV. And that sort of that because the TV and the sort of TV reality thing is still there, and then in some ways you can see the journey that Kyle MacLachlan's character goes through as a television sort of episodic crime thing, where he's the detective slash pervert, which is another great line. The film is filled with like really memorable, like really great lines. So, but yeah, like it's not a film which I think is coy about telling you what it's about. I think it tells you. But it is more, I think, than what it just simply tells you that utopia, like constructed utopia is like America is a constructed utopia, yes, but to me, it then sort of expands more in the sense that that's not specific to the 80s. That's a universal thing. Like whenever you get uh, something that's perfect, your desire is not to maintain the perfection, but to actually seek out aberrations. And I think that's where your sort of, your norm and breaking of the norm might also sort of come back to it a little bit, what Chris was
Yeah,
saying.
I
Like
mean,
it's,
even if you like the ladies watching, you're talking about soap opera. I mean, there's this whole weirdly caricaturish,
yeah.
yeah, representation of that. It's also in Wild at Heart, and also
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Uh-huh.
bits and parts in also
I think Twin Peaks has a lot of this, I
Twin Peaks. I
think,
have
Yeah.
from
heard
whatever I
of it.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also this lady, she's watching. You say that it's the idea of the American suburb where sitting in your drawing room, you're watching. I think she was watching some noir
Yeah, yeah. Some TV
stuff.
serial which
Yeah,
is
there was a
like,
gunman,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
So I think that's about it. It's
yeah.
the good part on the surface versus the rot that lays beneath it,
Yeah.
and
But
that's
we want the rot. I think that's the
we
that's the
want it.
thing maybe
Yeah,
which I sort of like, skimmed over in my head when I used to watch it before. I was like, it's basically that, but it is about
and
our desire for that
our
rot
desire, and
also.
also to that shift happens. When we are crossing that threshold.
Yeah.
From being a passive watcher of television,
Yeah.
which is also like a safety net,
Yep.
to going to the active, dangerous
It's the
sort of gaze
detective
of
pervert thing
yeah,
almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's how much you're. Yeah. So again, I mean, I
It's a
told you
recurring
I'll.
motif, I think, in I think in Twin Peaks also. I think the
Yeah,
whole
I mean,
television.
honestly,
Yeah.
I know people love Twin Peaks a lot, but Twin Peaks is Blue Velvet in television form for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to me, I guess I like the distilled tonal version of it in Blue Velvet the most, because I know that Twin Peaks expands into plot and then it's a huge lore and everything sort of expands, which is good. Like, I mean, I'm not denying that, but I've always been fond of just how much Lynch is able to condense into this freaking 2 hour film. And,
And how relentless it is for two
yeah, it's
hours straight.
so bloody good. But yeah, no, sorry, you were saying something, Chris, and I think I cut you off. I've not dropped any trivia. I don't know where to drop it. I want to show off my notes.
Please,
Uh,
if you have
I don't know
anything,
where to
otherwise.
start. I want to like integrate it, not just shout out what is there.
No, no, no. So I actually wanted to come back to something that Arijit was saying,
Yeah.
like at the very beginning, and it's something where you said something spiritual almost about Lynch's films, and I was thinking about it slightly differently because I'm not. I mean, again, spirituality is something that's very important to Lynch with his work. Being into
Meditation and everything. Yeah.
transcendental meditation in particular, which I've studied extensively. But the thing is, for me, I'm someone who's not very susceptible to that kind of a sort of thinking, but it's very close for me. Lynch's films, and I think the only other film that I've experienced is the film that Dhruv recommended and that he loves is the Paul Schrader film First Reformed, is an almost metaphysical experience of
Wow, you
of
use that word.
experiencing. So now I'm going to have to apologize.
I know that I use that word sometime, and then someone told me that they were like, "You are only allowed to use that word in literature," and I'm like, "Okay, I won't speak
And
about
I'm sorry, that's a philosophy word. I will tell them that no, you
literature." As
can't
in,
use-
like when you're writing, it sounds fine,
No,
but like when you
I-
speak, because what is metaphysics in like layman's term?
it
Jadurana.
is beyond
Man,
the.
come
It is
on.
just meta meaning beyond and physical meaning physical. So it's
Well, I mean,
anything
it's
beyond the
nothing.
physical.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what you can't understand, sort of.
In a sense, not any sense, anything that's not material in a sense. So that is we think of as
Sorry, I said jadoo
When we used to be
metaphysical.
in college days, we used to try to do planchets and stuff with
Yeah.
the Ouija board and all. So we used to just drop metaphysics so that everyone would think that we are some, very super intellectual guys and all that stuff. So we
Yeah.
used to drop that metaphysics. Someone used to
Me, because
report that.
I had to write
So
I had to write something on like Kishlovsky,
so,
right?
Huh.
So I was like, should I use that word or should I not use that word? Because I think
No,
it's very central.
So you said Jadoo Tona, and I suddenly went back to my college days. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we used to do, and we used to
And
define Jadoo Tona.
no, I mean, if there is one person who has the right to use that word, that
You
is me.
have,
I'm not
yes.
taking that away.
No,
You
but
are
can I
not taking that
ask
away
you that
from
my
me.
use of the word
Yes.
metaphysical in conjunction to talking about Kieślowski was fine?
I mean, it depends on what context, but like in
I think
general,
Decalogue.
yes.
episode one, and I think that episode where
Decalogue,
the hus-
Decalogue, the ice.
Decalogue
yeah,
for
Decalogue
sure.
first episode, and also I think the one where
I
the
think
husband
his
is about
later
to
work in
die.
general relies a lot on it. Like I think
Yeah.
switched from like total documentary form to
No
like.
End would also be that film. No End, and I think Blind Chance,
I have
and
not
also
seen those actually. Yeah, but no, I
yeah,
think he shifted essentially. Anyway, Kieślowski
yeah.
later,
Anyway, yeah,
entire Decalogue
No,
someday we'll
because
discuss.
what when you say there's a difference between metaphysical and what you don't know, because that is the difference between phenomena and noumena and Kant. We're not going there. But my point
We've
is
lost you,
essentially,
Chris.
I
Get
know
back on
that
track.
is so the point is, for me, it's the closest experience to being able to go beyond the physical of, and I mean that in a lot of different ways, in a sort of metaphorical way, in the sense that of course there are films that are beyond the narrative where you're sort of in the thematics and of it and all, but it's a film that almost like abandons in a sense abandons you to let go, or like tells you to let go of what is happening in for what like say what you feel, for what
yeah,
is
yeah.
there beyond just what you see. And I think
Absolutely.
that is to me what is so, especially for Blue Velvet. And I think
Right, right.
the balance especially works again is before it,
So we
because
talked
the
about.
plot.
I mentioned Megalopolis.
Yes,
I
No,
mean
no. So
yes.
basically, I want to just contextualize this why I mentioned it, and I mentioned it in a way
Yeah.
where because I was like, I can do with naive optimism, because Chris has defined, and I think some people, not just you, but I think a couple of
Yeah.
people who've liked Megalopolis. I think Arijit, you appreciated it, right?
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that film. I don't
So
Even
understand
I
what the
loved it,
fuck
yes.
happens, but I totally love it.
I saw
I
your
do
review
not.
letterboxd wala. See
Yeah,
that's the sort of thing which will be a hit at Quid because you
yeah.
put a Tere Naam ka song
या
when
क्या है ये
talking
क्यों है
about
ये
yes.
क्या मगर बट अच्छा लगता है
So
I don't
wrong.
understand it but
Yes.
I love it
Yeah,
that's
so I mean, I think Chris defined because we had a whole the brutalist versus megalopolis discussion. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. But basically, Chris was talking about appreciating the naive optimism of something like Megalopolis, and I found it hard to go like jive with in that film. But in this, uh, this is the one of the few times I've really felt give her dream or give her dream, because I think I was more like I'm talking more about the Sandy character, but
Yeah.
not. I mean that Kyle MacLachlan character is quite messed up. We'll talk about him a little bit more if you want,
No, but
but
I also want to bring up the sort of rebuttal or sort of this thing I brought there when we were talking about it is, for me, fundamentally the difference between something like Megalopolis and something like Blue Velvet is
yeah.
what does naive optimism mean in the context of these two works of art, right?
Hmm.
For me, Megalopolis is the fundamental core, the force for the film is naive optimism. It is also certain towards a certain returning to a it's a rejection of a certain disenchantment, but that is not what the film is saying it's about. It's what the film happens to be about, and
Sure.
what Francis Ford Coppola is at the end of the day doing, regardless of whether he himself is aware of it or not.
Mhm.
Whereas for Lynch, naive optimism is a force in a
Yeah.
world of many forces. And when you were talking about desire, to me, what I found was that innocence and evil are not states of being, they are forces.
Yeah.
They are forces that push you
Right.
back and forth and that
Yeah.
throw you around, and that you find yourself swayed by, but also seduced by.
Yeah.
You are seduced by
Yeah,
innocence,
totally.
you are seduced by evil,
Hmm.
and it is in that seduction that he's in kind of
And it's
Megalopolis characters
always
as
like I
well.
think that's I think what I never got before, which I got this time, is that they are always like that, almost like it's not that you can defeat evil or defeat innocence or like lose them. It's like I think it goes back a lot to just, in some ways it's envy, it's in some ways about self-deception. Like these things are so fascinating to me because again, like a lot of the movies which I think about, Vertigo, every time I think about Vertigo. In this, when people are looking through like that, when Kyle MacLachlan is essentially looking through the drawer, I'm like, well, that's or tailing behind sort of these people. I'm
Right,
like,
right.
well, that's like everything is Vertigo to me in that
Yeah, yeah,
whenever
yeah.
something like that happens. And I was thinking about, well, Memento, I've talked about plenty, but like this whole idea of, constructing your own truths and sort of, which is this fabrication idea of this Robins, and the Robins do come, but that Robin is very mechanical, and that mechanical Robin is has that bug in his mouth, which
Right.
I was reading, like, some people interpret it as the triumph of good over evil. Or is it the fact that these two are inseparable? Like the fact
Yeah.
that one can't eat into the other. Both of them are pieces of, construction. And to me, the ending, a lot of it is reflective in the sense that it is a return to a naive optimism, but it's done in a way where you can still see cracks, where you can still see this facade not holding for too long. It's almost like, it's the what you said, forces. It's like for this second, this force has prevailed, but like if we were
Prevailed,
to
yeah.
continue in this universe, Sandy might become Isabella Rossellini's character. Uh, Kyle MacLachlan's character might become Frank Booth. Those possibilities are open. No one has closed those possibilities off.
No, and it's
That's
also like a
yeah.
question very much of like linguistic construction, like the fact of innocence. Like innocence is not innocence if there is something, if there is not something to lose the
Yes,
innocence
of course.
about.
Yeah.
Evil is not contextualized as
It's
evil
the
unless
dark
there
can't
is a
exist
good.
without light, right? In many ways. Yeah.
Right, right. So the idea is that if you are even thinking about it in that sense, good cannot triumph over evil because then it is no longer good.
Good.
Good
Yeah.
ceases to be good the
Hmm.
moment that evil has been triumphed over.
Very
So that
philosophy. Because I've used these Caesars all words, na, when I was taking that one philosophy class I took. I'm like, ये Caesars हर चीज में use करते हैं ये लोग. But anyway, sorry. Sorry for my philosophy slander. I do appreciate philosophy in film a lot, but once people start talking philosophy, I just have like, oh, my brain
Yeah,
shuts off.
it
Like,
gets
like it's
difficult.
just
Yeah,
like I
yeah, yeah.
studied it, right, and then I realized how
I
much you have
get
to
you. I get
do,
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like making arguments and then proving, and I was like, ये proving moving कहाँ से आ गया भाई?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I was like,
And it's like I
and
totally zone out, and I'm like, fuck. Then I start thinking
I think
about,
the
oh,
visual
look at
medium,
that.
to me at least, I'm like, oh, I get what, like, whatever sort
Yeah,
of
I mean, at
communicated
least
visually. Yeah,
you get
yeah.
it in your own terms, but
Sure.
I mean, philosophical terms kind of sort of
But they
make.
are like, I think Chris has apologized to all of us for philosophies.
and
No,
attempted
total
to make it
respect to people
as
who
accessible
study
as
it.
I can.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
total respect to people who study it, and actually, it's quite difficult. I mean, but
No,
for me,
it is very difficult. I mean, we are
yeah,
making
it's
fun
like
of it because we don't get it,
we
not
don't,
because
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
because we don't get it actually.
yeah, we are not making fun of it because, I mean, it is useless also, but like, still.
In that sense, everything
So
is
are we.
useless.
नहीं, I mean, that is a given ना अरिजीत, वो तो मैंने बोला ही है. That's more of a given. Anyway, sorry. Getting back on track. Any other points, guys? I have like
Do you guys have any theory about Frank Booth's past life, like his background or anything? I have
I mean,
a
he has
theory.
mommy issues, definitely.
Yes, totally, totally. But I,
Mm.
I, I feel like, I mean, there are hints. I mean, it's almost like reading between the lines. It's like
Yeah,
I feel that he, that deep trauma that he has, he was subjected to, I mean, strange kinds of sexual violence, like
yeah.
mostly I think by his father,
Hmm.
because and that and while so we were mentioning that thing that he loves music, and that brings out the
Yeah,
tender side of his,
yeah.
and also when
I
he's
mean,
like,
tender, but still very volatile. Like he feels like he's gonna
obviously
just gonna like burst into some like
anytime, like, yeah,
yeah, that scene between him and
he is very
Kyle
terrifying in a
MacLachlan
sense, because
in
I
outside the
think
car is yeah.
the closest I have felt like this was Joe Pesci in Goodfellas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
And
it's like that ticking time bomb thing. Yeah, it's just
yeah,
like,
but
oh God, he's gonna
Frank
blast
Booth
anytime.
sort of surpasses that by miles. Like, I mean, he's very difficult to. I mean, if he was in front of me, I wouldn't know what to do. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
very
mean,
weirdly
you'd
strange kind of
probably
thing.
yeah. It's very
And
odd. But
and
but I
like,
love how and this is what I was wanting to mention about some of the costumes, where they are there's only in the beginning of the film not Frank, Jeffrey wears beige, like a lightish
Hmm.
beige, and towards the end he
Right.
wears white. Apart from that, it's all like navies and like it's proper blacks, which is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Frank also wears. So I think there's like good stuff going on with in that sort of mirroring. Then there's contrast
And
between Sandy
also,
and
when she's
yeah,
singing, you see those red curtains
yeah.
behind, which I think is a motif in the Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks, it comes back in Mulholland Drive also. Like it's the
Yes,
stage.
yes,
The stage is
right,
a big
right.
thing, right? Because I think it's the stage has the power to seduce, but it is a fabrication, and it's like it sort of lends itself very well to, and it's in that amazing sequence of In Dreams. I have literally been listening to In Dreams for the past half day, like entirely on loop for some reason. I've just like, just it's got that. I keep on thinking about that image of him just taking of Dean Stockwell taking that mic and just blasting that song when it's actually a tape recording, which is again Mulholland Drive. Again,
And
it's
also,
all like a yeah,
what do you guys
Lynchian.
think about the detective character, Williams?
The Sandy's father.
No, the cop.
That's
That is
Sandy's
Sandy's
father,
father.
right?
Oh, right.
The Laura
Correct,
Dern's
correct.
character's
Yeah,
father. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 I mean, he's the. It's interesting actually. He has. I've noted one of the things in the beginning. He and Jeffrey talk when he goes to his house, and and Jeffrey, I think, says it's a strange world, always like always, and then he tells him that it must be great that you're essentially a detective now, right? Like it's because he's curious. Jeffrey is curious, and this guy's a detective, Sandy's father, and he's like, it must be great, and he's like, it's horrible too. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. That's the way it has to be, which I think is very interesting. Like I think he's probably at a point in life where he's realized that that there are these two forces of evil and uh, light and dark sort of consistently at play with each other because I think you remember the scene where the man in the yellow dress shows up in the house and he's basically like, take it calm, like you don't need to be all hot-headed about this because that's how we deal with this situation, not in your sort of rage fantasy. So I guess somewhat a a figure of redemption in some senses, almost
No,
to
but no, I think it's more importantly, it's a figure of separation, right? He's
sure.
the person, even if you look at it from the angle of like the police, the point is that they are
Oh,
supposed to
police are also
maintain.
within the system, though. That's also there.
Exactly. Like it's the two sides. Like the fact that the both of them are partners, you get this dichotomy. Their job is to maintain this voyeuristic separation
Sure.
between the good white picket fenced
Yeah.
reality and the subconscious or whatever you want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it. But there is also that also makes you most vulnerable to the seduction into
Yeah.
that it allows you the cover
Cover. Hmm.
of that. So I think for me those two characters being partners also says that because they are
Yeah.
that
Yeah. That's
that
true.
like I said, that sort of gateway or that middle ground, that ambiguous middle
Yeah.
between these two worlds that's
Yeah.
necessary to maintain that dichotomy in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Absolutely. And yeah. I mean, there's
No, I actually asked because I found that article about the beers,
okay. Yeah, yeah, go
and
ahead. Yeah.
there's
You wanted to
yeah,
talk about
that
that.
was fun. No, so what it I found this part actually very interesting, which is the
Hmm.
Detective Williams. In terms of Freudian analysis, they're saying the Detective William represents his superego because
Super
he
ego.
drinks Budweiser. So it's like,
Oh,
and it
okay.
says that since Jeffrey's father suffers a heart attack, like we
Yeah.
know, it's Sandy's father, the cold, eyeballing detective, who stands as the film's ultimate authority figure. Playing watchdog is the domain of Freud's superego, keeping the ego in check from the wild ways of
Hmm.
the id. So he's the
Interesting.
head of this solid, wholesome family, but not too strict or overbearing. He
Hmm.
lets Sandy go on a date with Jeffrey, but
Yeah.
not without giving the young suitor some old fashioned advice, paternal
Advice.
advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's also warning Jeffrey against further pursuing his investigations, but keeps a cool head every time Jeffrey defies his warning. Like the superego, he is not concerned with discipline and punishment so much as with creating a space for the ego to play with the limits of normality. So if the
Yeah.
superego's power comes from the warning and reprimand, it
Hmm.
would be rendered impotent if the ego had no room for minor disobedience and reinterpretation of the rules.
Interesting.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
makes
so I
sense.
I found this very it's an interesting thing,
Yeah,
and then it
absolutely.
also takes it that Budweiser stands for several things. For one, it's a working class beer, working class with a strong work ethic and sincere belief in the
Sure.
American way. So and then it
Was
talks about how
Heineken
it's
introduced then or what or something in 80s? Which is why
I
it's the rage. At what's the
might
slow
be
club? Is it the slow club?
Yeah, this look club.
Slow club.
wait. Okay, so it's saying
These
Heineken is a
these
mainstream European beer that is popularly commercialized in North America. Neither wholly familiar nor completely foreign. It lies somewhere in between,
which
Between.
like
is Jeffrey's character
which
also.
is Jeffrey's
Yeah,
character, and because of and this Frank is his beer is the Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is like Budweiser, is seen as a low class working man's beer. But we imagine Pabst drinkers as having less of a work ethic than those of Bud. They're
sure.
blue collar but hate their jobs and resent the corporate world that ensnares
That's
them.
actually, I mean, that's solid beer analysis into like a
This
film,
article
correct?
is crazy.
Which
I don't
I'm
know just
sure,
how.
but I'm
Yeah,
sure there was some thought behind it from Lynch also. And of course,
Absolutely.
it
it's
has to be. Yeah.
probably not as sort of, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know
In
Lynch
fact,
at
when I
all.
was
So
watching it, rewatching it, I was like, is he doing product placement?
that's
Was
what
that
I
allowed?
thought.
And is it like a conscious decision? Then I was like, no, Lynch wouldn't do it. But he must have thought something about it. And why? While I was reading this article, and they
Hmm.
have clearly segregated points and it's like totally expressed like,
Make sure you link it, Arijit. I'll put it in the description
yes,
somewhere
yes, I'll
this time.
wait, I'll just.
But yeah, no, I mean that's definitely like again, there's so many it's that what I always say, it's an open world film in many ways. Even though it has sort of like a strict narrative and like strict no, but like loosish, but fairly clearly delineated narrative. Like there's you don't need to like think about what happens, how happens. Like there are certain logical leaps the film will ask you to take. Like there are points where you're like, have we entered into some dream space? Like Sandy's dream space when she goes hurtling towards Jeffrey when he's in the apartment waiting to shoot Frank. But yeah, there's like gazillions of moments like that. But anything else in particular you guys want to highlight? Your queer reading, Chris, you were talking about your. Is there more to be said on that, or is that more like a hypothesis you have?
No, it's not a hypothesis. Well, I think what I say about queer reading in that sense is that and one thing I've been talking about is the idea of decoupling or at least decentering the sort of very strict ideas of gender and sexuality when we
Yeah,
talk about queerness in a sense. And I don't want to say that you shouldn't do it. Absolutely, that's a fundamental of where it comes from. But to understand queerness is this certain relationship with normativity, right? And so that's why that's all that fundamentally the idea is that what is queer is what challenges the idea of the normative, not the
sure.
normal, the
Yeah.
idea of the normative
Hmm.
and the idea of norm itself. And I think Blue Velvet is, and again, I agree with you entirely that Twin Peaks just feels like a longer and more elaborate version of something like Blue Velvet. But Blue Velvet really instills that queerness as strangeness, as the attempt to push to the very limit and recontextualize, or in a sense, almost rebuild this
Hmm.
idea of normativity and question if what that even means in a
Yeah.
sense.
I mean,
And
what
also
is
also
what is Blue Velvet? That's the other thing. Like you, because one of the things which I was almost thinking we like the whole academic thing. I'll actually make a table of how the film combines and like contrasts certain symbols and sort of things. So Blue Velvet, for instance, becomes like this thing where it's of course it's got that soft texture. It's well velvety, of course, but it's also used by Frank in that moment of ritual of essentially raping Isabella Rossellini's character, right? Then there is I have noted some. I will show off what I've noticed, I suppose. Is I love this line actually. This happens in that moment between Frank and um, Jeffrey outside the car where he's like, I'll send you a love letter straight from my heart. Fucker, do you know what a love letter is? It's a bullet from a gun, fucker. Like it's that sort of thing, and then later, like just like just maybe one or two scenes later, there's this song that plays, like, and it's got this lyric which I had noted, which is I've lost that, which is quite sad. But I'm going to find it. Wait. uh, Love letters from my heart keep us so near while apart, which because that was said by Frank before this. What does that mean? Does that mean violence keeps people who are apart together? Like, if you're going to take the meaning of the fact that love letter from someone's heart is a bullet, right, from their gun, what does that mean, like, in the context of this film? Like, does that mean that love letters, like, violence is the means to keep a relationship together? Because in many ways that's the dominant force into how Frank and Isabella Rossellini's character, Dorothy. I don't know why I've forgotten Dorothy's name of all things. That Wizard of Oz reference that he's thrown nicely there. But oh yeah, or your favorite Wicked. Sorry, Chris. But yeah, Chris is pointing a gun to his head. I don't know
लव
why.
लेटर मेरे को भेज दो सर प्लीज मेरे को गोली मारो प्लीज
Okay, fine. Anyways, I think that's about as much I think I can show off, because I can't read my notes actually. Anyways, other thoughts? Any other thoughts on maybe trivia you have about the film? Maybe thoughts you have about the ending? Do you think the film's ending is utopian, or is it sort of cracked in a sort of very um I don't know, like, like, I think this is the one ending. No, not just one, but there are a couple of, like, Mulholland Drive. Like, I think about it, and I'm just like, I know some people have made an argument that it's not overtly about how bad Hollywood is. I'm like, well, no, like, it's like by the end, it is about that. Like, you can kind of solidly pinpoint that. This I came out and I was like, this has, like, you can take it in many different sort of ways. So, anyways, if any one of you has a thought, then it's fine. If not, that's also fine. Otherwise, I will end the episode without mentioning any trivia, which is sad, but okay.
Nothing trivial, but
Yeah.
you mentioned Dino De Laurentiis, and I think we were
Yes.
talking about how the industry functions these days, and so I mean, we also go back to how producers, I mean, ideally how we would look into a producer, and
Yeah.
De Laurentiis was such a producer. I mean, he would produce something like Conan the Barbarian, but he would also produce Serpico or a Godard
Yeah.
film, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously known for the Fellini films, and then
Mm-hmm.
he would, so that kind of range we had, so which is, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's crazy to also think that Lynch also had the backing and support of creative
Utopian
people.
times, Arijit.
Totally, totally.
Utopian
I mean,
times. Like, again,
so
we are comparing it with the hellish landscape today. Which is weird to, like, I still find it extremely weird that digital revolution has made it more difficult
we have just
for,
moved backwards. Yeah.
which is very strange. Like, it's supposed to be like, it was supposed to break through. एक तो इंडस्ट्री टूट गई है यहाँ पे, तो ऐसा लगता है, like, it's not like broken through it, it's broken the industry
So
almost.
someone was saying the other day, remember the times when we said that lack of information makes people stupid? Well,
Hmm.
seems like that was not the problem
Yeah,
anymore. So it's
because
like,
because like the 70s and 80s are filled with such examples. I know Warner
yeah,
Brother
yeah.
distributed a Ken Russell film called Altered States. I was like,
Yes, yes.
what are they doing
Right,
distributing
right.
this? This is the half. This is like genuinely weird shit. Like, how
Even
can
last
they
week,
distribute this?
I was watching these VHS copies of Matrix or the Terminator. You can't
Yeah,
imagine someone jumping and making a Terminator today just like that. I mean, obviously
yeah.
now they're established franchises, so they'll keep
Now, yeah,
making
yeah. No,
Terminator
now
7,
there's just
8, and all that
IP
stuff.
and IP and
Yeah,
IP and just,
but
oh
you can't.
God.
It's either exploiting your nostalgia, which I call
Yeah.
nostalgia exploitation,
Oh, nice.
or or they'll just bank on the franchisee sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let
Here's
them
to
try.
Blue Velvet 2, which, to
Yes.
be honest,
इलेक्ट्रिक बूगलो
electric. No, but to be there have been. It's. I was thinking about this actually. The only other film which I think has had, like, in sort of from 80s and 90s, Pulp Fiction sort of broke people's mind a little bit, so everyone copied
Mhm,
that, right?
mhm, mhm.
And
Right.
Blue Velvet has had that same effect on people. Whoever makes a suburban dystopia movie, everyone wants to make Blue Velvet,
Right,
without sort
right.
of committing to actually the like really complicated complexity
Yeah, yeah.
which
I
which is
think
going on there. So
first you have to have the experience of being in a suburbia, and second, I think it also takes the eccentric genius that Lynch was to make a
yeah,
film
and
like that. I mean,
I think most of the people who are making films about suburban dystopia actually seem to be speaking from a place where they are above the suburban dystopia, like
right, right,
suburban
right,
utopia. Sorry,
right.
they think that their objective is to critique it, like Blue Velvet did, but
Hmm.
Blue Velvet crucially also sort of had made it feel like an idyll, like which feels believable, even though
Right,
it is
right.
heightened. So yeah, like again, it's the be more mysterious is the motto. I think we should
No, it's
like
not only mysterious, but authentic, right? It's a certain
hmm,
loss of authenticity. Like everybody wants to make a Blue Velvet. Nobody
yeah.
wants to
Yeah,
make a new film. Like David
right.
Lynch, I mean, you talk particularly about the fact that the films after this are not adaptations, they're new films that are completely from his mind. Nobody trusts
I
themselves
mean,
in
he
studios,
takes
don't trust.
inspiration. It's turning inspiration into art. Like of
No,
course,
but
his films are
the idea
inspired, but
of
like.
inspiration is not to mimic.
Of
Yeah,
It's
course.
not it
yeah.
right now, it's almost mimicry.
It
Like,
just becomes
But
okay,
copy of a copy of a
but
copy. That's
yeah,
correct.
copy
but
of
but we
Yeah,
but Chris, we
absolutely.
yeah.
can't say this. We
Hmm.
actively said on the Bollywood episode that we will take mimicry right now.
In
We
the very specific context of Bollywood in
yes,
2025.
we will take mimicry. We do not want your original ideas. We
We
have
don't
seen
want
what they
mimic.
are.
No, no, we don't want mimicry. We want photocopy. That is the
Yes, we want
difference.
photocopies of decent movies.
Mimicry, or no, because again, the idea of mimicry itself, and again, I'm going to flex my philosophy one last time, is this idea of mimesis, this platonic idea of mimesis, which I will
Oh, yeah,
explain, don't worry.
I made a wow, you're going there, this squid. But okay.
The idea of essentially is that in we say ye sab moh maya. It's a concept that's there in a lot of Indian
Jadoo
philosophy as
Tona.
well. It's not Jadoo Tona. The idea that reality as we know it is a copy of an ideal.
Yeah.
In Plato's philosophy, he says that the ideal world is a world of ideas. And that what we have today is a copy. So if I'm holding this pen, every single pen is a copy of an ideal idea of a pen. And Plato was against art because he thought it was a copy of a copy of a copy. It is that is what mimesis meant, and
Hmm.
mimicry was, or mimesis was, a negative concept.
Hmm.
Now when a lot of other philosophers then took it as in more positive spins, but right now that is what it feels like. It feels, and every time you copy you lose something, you lose some essence, you lose some value, and that is what for me, like you're talking about, right? When everybody tries to make a Blue Velvet, you are shaving off everything that makes Blue Velvet,
Make
and
your
just
blue
take
velvet is sort of,
exactly, don't
but
make,
not in
don't
Bollywood. Not in Bollywood. Do not make your own blue velvet. Just copy and paste blue velvet. Get Kyle MacLachlan, dub him over with his.
only thing is pick good source material, pick Blue Velvet, don't pick bad films to then remake
Listen,
worse films.
whatever. Do not make original films. Is the motto? Is the
We
motto
haven't
for
had
Bollywood?
a good Bollywood film this year, right? I mean, nothing
These
I
guys
that
saw
we've
mean,
some
seen.
stuff they liked. I think.
Superboys of Malegaon, I saw that's
Haha, but that's
okay.
again not Bollywood. I mean,
I mean,
pure.
like
And it's
Bollywood. To
Rima
whatever,
It's
No,
gone,
whatever.
na?
Really,
Yeah, it's
no, no, no,
gone
no,
now.
nothing at all.
Yeah, it's
No,
gone
If
no.
you
now.
want to count Chhava, Chris, have you
Oh
seen
my
Chhava?
God.
Please, फिर से
You do
make
not get to say this.
I have
Yeah, you
boundaries,
draw
okay?
your line after. Yeah, I will watch Animal twice, and I will watch Houseful 5A and B both, and that's where my line is drawn. Fantastic. Here he is. Blue Velvet, guys. How wonderful. Anyways, no, but yeah, I mean, we had a great time chatting.
Yeah,
I
this was
mentioned
very nice.
Houseful 5A and B much less than I thought. But
No, but that is fine for now because you're going to continue to reference it
every
for the
episode,
rest of.
sorry, yeah. Every episode. Chris is going to be reminded of the crimes against cinephilia he's
After a
committing.
point, I'm just going to own it, sir. So it's only gonna get worse for you.
Well, then fine. But I will still remind you. It's okay. Anyways, but this was great. I think we discussed a fair bit of Blue Velvet, like
Yes,
in
yes.
terms of what it's about, what we think about it, how it sort of changed for us. Which is like, I think one of the things I put out yesterday was there is there's few feelings of loving a film you thought you loved already. Like when you love a film you thought you already loved more when you watch it. It's just like this is so good. Like this is like when
Can I
does
say
this
something
happen?
terrible here?
So say some garbage thing.
Like me when I saw the final reckoning a second.
Oh God, you.
Cussing your love letter. Straight from my heart, fucker! You know what a love letter is? It's a bullet from a fucking gun, fucker! You receive a love letter from me, you're fucked forever! You understand, fuck? I'll send you straight to hell, fucker!
I mean, it was whatever.
Yeah,
Like a
it's like
I
just
can't believe Chris inserted that thing. That's very
Again, I warned you, I told you that I'm going to say something horrible.
Yeah. I told you David Lynch should make a movie with Tom Cruise.
Should have.
yeah,
Should
I
have.
should
Because
absolutely
just
should
to
have.
expose him more.
yeah.
Like
I mean,
Stanley
again,
Kubrick already did.
I love Tom
Yeah.
Cruise and I am an Eyes Wide Shut enthusiast. So
Yeah, now Fincher can do it. I think he's optioned the script of
Fincher is in his
Tarantino.
Netflix mode though. I don't know how much he's willing to
No, he might
expose.
do it because he optioned the script, no, of
Oh, is it?
Tarantino's
Okay.
that. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean
is
it
it the
is rumored.
Tarantino? Is he actually directing the Tarantino script?
Yeah, it's a rumor thing, but I think they
Okay.
might do
no,
it
no, they've started
actually.
casting for it, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. This
They're
is going to
doing the
be
Once Upon a
fun.
Time Hollywood,
But
that whole
a
universe.
little odd combination, no? Trying to.
Yeah, Tarantino giving his script to Fincher, like his
It,
basic critique was Fincher is not a.
Fincher feels too like cold as a
Yeah,
filmmaker
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
for
yeah.
anyways. Interesting. We are
It'll be
all
interesting to
there for
see.
interesting combinations as long as it's not in Bollywood. So that's we want to really
As long as that combination is not Sajid Nadiadwala and Tarun
Our
Mansukhani.
Blue Velvet episode is about Blue Velvet, of course, but it is another reminder of two mottos we will be carrying throughout this whole year. Uh, Make your own Blue Velvet to everyone except Bollywood. And what was the whole thing? Please photocopy whatever. Please photocopy whatever thing you're planning to copy Bollywood. So that's how we are rolling with this year. And this is Bollywood, not like indie stuff. So the mainstream, not stolen and all. We welcome those. I think some people in the podcast have watched it and really liked it. Anyways, that's it for our Blue Velvet episode. I think we discussed a lot. Hopefully, you found it um, I was saying intellectually. See, you've broken my language. Intellectually stimulating. But I don't know what you. I mean, again, our intention with these episodes is essentially to rewatch David Lynch's films and discuss them in the most semi-professional way we can, which is what we tried to do again. Hopefully you liked it. I know the other episodes have done reasonably well, so it's not like no one is listening. So I'm not like as discouraged to, continue keep doing them. Also, honestly, this one episode thing is a great thing. Like one film per episode thing is really good. Those three films was a freaking nightmare to cobble together in some ways. But anyways, we'll be back next. Well, I'll try this month end for Wild at Heart, which is a film which I've never seen, which I've heard very mixed things about. So I'm very curious.
I love that film.
Arijit,
Yeah.
I know you love it, so I'm very curious. I love Laura
Yeah,
Dern.
also because it has Nick Cage. I love everything
Okay.
that has Nick Cage in it.
Okay. No, but I'm curious in general about Wild at Heart. I've heard very mixed things about it. So, it's anyways, that's our next film we'll be discussing for Lynch. Then we have the daunting task of talking about Twin Peaks, which let's see how we go about doing that. But we let me plan that. I have not started my re-binge of that. But anyways, let's see how that goes. I don't know what else we are. Chris, do you have any idea what else is coming out? for Quid?
No.
Like, what are we recording? Nothing?
I
There's
don't
a
know.
live stream due sometime.
Yeah, to talk about Thug Life, of all things.
Oh, yeah, because everyone hated it.
Yes,
And your favorite of this year,
of
of course,
course.
you will mention. But anyways, we'll see. We'll keep you guys updated on what other nonsense we are up to. Is there anything else releasing, Chris? Because you're more aware of the movie calendar than I am.
I
We are
mean,
not discussing Bhul Chuk Maaf. So,
I plan to watch it with my friends
mm,
at like 10 o'clock in the morning next. Our options were that or
well,
Bawal, so you can imagine.
Oh,
well,
you guys could talk about that Metro in Dino.
nah, I think
Oh
we are fine.
yeah, Metro ka thing. And what else is coming out?
I'll
English stuff,
probably
there's
watch.
F1 and all coming out, right? We'll
F1 is
Oh,
coming
F1
out,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
so yeah. So
Yeah,
we'll
which I
talk about
love.
all
I
that.
love the promotional material of F1 just being Joseph Kosinski talking about how Brad Pitt is just not as wild as Tom Cruise is, and he's essentially insulting him. It's like I
How
saw
rude.
like the variety ka headline is is the thing with Tom Cruise, if it was actually him, he would have like wanted to crash the car, but like Brad Pitt knows his boundaries. He knows I'm not doing it.
You mean
And
he's a
it's
little saner than Tom Cruise?
that's the whole and it sounds like they're saying that Brad Pitt just does not have the juice.
And
And
Brad
it's
Pitt will
so
have that
fun.
smug
That's
face
so
and he'll be
rude.
like,
I like
It's
Brad
so
Pitt quite a bit. So,
yeah, Brad Pitt will have that smug face and he'll be, yeah, but it's not fun, it's like that. I love,
I'm a big
yeah,
Brad Pitt
me
the
too,
actor
me
fan.
too. Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm
yeah,
Brad Pitt everything fan,
yeah,
producer,
Oh,
yeah.
Sitare
actor.
Zameen Par is coming
Oh,
out next
Siddharth Zamin
month.
is also, yeah, it's also there.
Yes.
It's a
Then
remake of any English film,
Spanish.
yeah,
a
Spanish
Spanish film.
film.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is
Chris,
also remade in English, I think,
best
with
of luck trying to discuss that with people.
No, I
I
want to
will
watch
edit
the
it.
original.
28 years later is also
Oh
coming
yeah,
out
that
next
we'll
month.
discuss 100%. Arijit, if you're interested, we can do the 28. What is the
Is
days,
it out
weeks?
already?
No,
I
it's
don't
coming
No,
think.
out
no,
in
it's
June
next
though.
month.
Haha,
Oh,
Oh,
then
so
July.
is no, next month, June. Dhruv, your and my most anticipated film of the year is coming out next month, which is Celine Song's Celine Song's The
And
Materialists.
Oh,
we'll
I thought
discuss.
you guys will say Superman.
No. The Celine song is a special topic of discussion for us because we are the only two people apparently who don't like past lives, which apparently everyone likes. So,
I
anyways,
didn't even watch it. I
good,
was not
good,
even
Arijit, you were
interested.
Good for
saved.
Yeah.
you.
I think a
Yeah.
similar film was in Hindi, Three of Us or something like that.
No, a
So I was,
similar film which is better is Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. It is
oh,
exactly
okay. Yeah, I
that.
don't like that film either. Anyway, but
So
the
this is
Three
the
of Us,
boring version of that.
yeah, Three of Us also, I was bored out of my mind. I was
Oh,
like,
you
what the
didn't like
fuck
Three
is
of
this?
Us, right?
Yeah, I was like, what the
No,
fuck
this
is
is
this?
not Three of Us at all. This is like a proper. It's like it's. I'm gonna have to
What
cut all
is
this
it,
out.
sir?
It's like a what's that Nancy Meyers rom-com directed in a style which is Bresson inspired, which is I'm like
Eh?
no one cares. Like I'm like I mean well people did care. I didn't care, but whatever. I watched it twice because I was like everyone told me I was wrong, so I was like okay sure let me rewatch it because maybe I was
You
like
need help, sir. मेरे को बोलते हो.
you do not get to speak. Anyways, thank you so much. And Khatam, I'm not going to put Akit. I have to edit out all this nonsense, but okay.
A candy-colored clown they call the Sandman tiptoes to my room every night just to sprinkle stardust and to whisper, go to sleep, everything is all right.